Well, this week has been controversial for Joe Biden, in part because every time the press tries to talk to him about this humongous disaster in Maui, and it is just awful, largest number of deaths in a wildfire we've ever had, I think, ever in our history. Count is 111 and growing, and there are thousands of people unaccounted for. This past week, when reporters were shouting out questions, this is Joe's response.
What are you telling us about? Sir, Milwaukee. Sir, your trip to Milwaukee. Are you going to talk?
No, he's not going to talk. There he goes. And they were trying to get him to make some comment about the situation in Maui. Nothing. In fact, earlier in the week, when asked about it, he just said no comment. And then when he finally announced that he would go to Hawaii because there was so much pressure, even from Democrats, about that he needed to go and show some sympathy. After all, he is Mr. Empathy, you know. The reporters asked him, tell us about your trip to Hawaii. His answer here is just epic.
Can you tell us about your Hawaii trip, sir?
No, not now. I'm going to be leaving. I'll be there on Monday.
Why is it important that you go?
Sir, on the family issue. Thank you, Mr. President.
You've just seen Joe Biden in action, showing how much he cares. Karine Jean-Pierre trots to the White House podium, and she tries to tell us he does care a lot.
See the president, if you know this president, you know how much he cares about people. You know how much he cares about folks who have lost so much. You have covered him, Phil. You know how he deals with these types of unfortunate situations.
Right.
Yeah, we do know. We've seen it. He stiffs the whole thing. It's like he still hasn't been to East Palestine in Ohio, where they had that train wreck and all these people's homes are worth nothing. And he said he would go and check on them. He hasn't. That's been a year and a half.
Right.
I think a year and a half. It's been a long time.
It's been a while.
And I mean, it's just, once again, dereliction of duty. Now, here's something that got an enormous amount of brushback from people across the political spectrum, Democrats and Republicans alike. Joe Biden announced that there would be a $700 per household one-time payment to the victims of the Maui disaster. Here's what he did in the same 24-hour period. He announced $40 billion of aid going to Ukraine. Watch first his announcement of the aid to Maui.
We've also authorized one-time payments of $700 per household to folks who've been displaced so they can do the immediate things of just taking care of medications and prescriptions that they so badly need.
$700 won't buy a single night's hotel room in Maui for most hotels there. So, I mean, it's better than nothing. But now let's contrast that with what he has proposed that very same day to do for Ukraine. $40 billion, big chunk of it to go to Ukraine. And that's a whole issue separate than this. But it just seemed a little bit maybe mismatched, that on one hand, all right, you folks that had everything you own burned down, $700 one time. Mm-hmm. You people over in Ukraine, $40 billion.
Yeah.
Knock yourselves out.
Yeah, and how long is that $700 going to last?
Well,
reality.
A day, a couple of days,
Yeah.
not long. So it's quite a mess. One of the things that I am just stunned by is Joe Biden, in one of his more angry moments, is trying to defend the pullout of Afghanistan, and that it was 2 years ago, and it was just horrific, poorly planned, even worse, executed in the most hideous way. And here he is defending how great a job he did.
Name me a single objective we've ever set out to accomplish that we've failed on. Name me one in all of our history. Not one.
Name me one. Here's some, Joe. Let's try the southern border. Let's try inflation. Let's try taxation. Let's try dealing with the whole Ukraine-Russian situation. Let's try you not being accountable for all the $20+ million that flowed into your family from foreign governments, including China, Ukraine, and Russia. And how did you get that money? What did you do to earn it? What did Hunter do to earn his piece of it? So when you say, name me one, there's several. And I could come up with more if we only had the time.
Zero confidence, zero all caps, by the way, confidence in our current administration. How did we get to this point?
We got to this point because you have a monolithic media that has told us lie after lie after lie. And when politicians tell lies, they cover for the Democrats. And even when a Republican tells the truth, they call it a lie. That's part of it. And the other part is our government has weaponized all of the alphabet agencies, the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA, and they're using the powers of those agencies to crush the opposition. And that is how we end up with the Joe Biden. And it's very, very disturbing.
Sherry Palmer today is asking, do you think that President Trump will trump all these charges?
It's hard to say. I think he will lose at the local level in some of these jurisdictions, like in D.C., where 95% of the jury pool voted for Biden and against him. Probably the same in Fulton County, Georgia. If they go to trial, he's not going to get a fair trial. But I think he has an excellent chance, a very strong chance of having all of it thrown out on appeal. And so that's what we have to kind of hope for. We're going to go to this defense of Bidenomics, which has to be one of the most ridiculous things I've heard. But Brian Deese, who is a former White House economic advisor, gives us a real explanation as to why people ought to be supporting Bidenomics.
Polls, the American public, almost half of them don't feel like the economy is going well. What do you, I know you're focused on the policy side, always have been, but you're a politically savvy guy too. I mean, what do you attribute that to?
The economic anxiety that people feel has been years and decades in the making as well. And so people naturally are hesitant to accept when they see progress on the horizon. They want to know, is that progress going to continue?
Basically, people are stupid and they don't really see what a wonderful economic situation they're in, even though everything is costing more and they've lost significant amount of their income. I'm just amazed these people say this stuff. But here's the thing, they get away with it because nobody in the press is going to call them out and challenge them. Chuck Schumer was on MSNBC on the Morning Joke. That's what I call it, Morning Joe, but I call it the Morning Joke. And he also defends Bidenomics as if it's just something we ought to be standing up and cheering.
Economy is doing so well, and it's in good part because of the work we in the Senate and the president did over the last summer. Really?
Gee, Chuck, that's news to all of us, because when we look at some economic facts, as pointed out, in many commentaries, here's what we find. Prices are up almost 17% since Joe Biden took office. Real wages are down by 3%. So if you put that together, the prices are up and wages are down. That's a rough 20% switch, which means people's actual capacity of money is 20% less than it was when he took office. Nationwide average for regular gas is up $1.48 since Biden took office. Americans have paid $2,250 more in increased energy costs since Biden came into office. And American savings, real incomes, and economic confidence all down. Now, here's another one. Household spending, $709 more a month than 2 years ago for the same goods and services. Add that up, and we're talking over $8,000 a year for the typical American family. That you are underwater, and unless you got an $8,500 a year raise this past year, you are losing ground thanks to Bidenomics. So this guy, Deese, says, oh yeah, it's great. Chuck Schumer says, it's terrific. We've done such a good job. I ask you, who are watching today, are you just giddy with excitement over what Bidenomics has done to your pocketbook? My guess is you're not. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I hope you will now. The button is just below this video, and there's a little bell next to it. If you click on those, YouTube will reluctantly start letting you know when we've got a new video uploaded.